This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Residents in the Rafah district held a funeral procession for Mohammed Abdel Al, who was killed by an Israeli attack on a home in Rafah early this morning. Yesterday evening, Israel carried out aggressions in many places throughout the Gaza district, including economic institutions and infrastructure.
Israeli aggression and the state-sponsored terrorism continues in Gaza district from the north to the south, where one citizen, Muhammad Abdel Ala, 25 years old, was murdered this morning. He was from Al-Quds Brigade, the military wing of the Islamic Jihad. He died of injuries sustained from shrapnel of missiles launched by Israeli Apache helicopters on a group of resistance fighters in a Salam neighborhood south of Rafah city. Early this morning, Israeli warplanes bombed the office headquarters of the Minister of Interior Saeed Siyam in the Hawa neighborhood west of Gaza city. A tremendous fire engulfed the ministry headquarters. Israeli warplanes also bombed the Sahwa media agency that belongs to the Islamic resistance movement Hamas in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza. A huge fire erupted in the agency. The Israeli bombing also hit a training camp belonging to the Izzeddin al-Qassam Brigade, northwest of Gaza city near the Shati refugee camp in the north. Eyewitnesses said that a large fire erupted in the targeted site, resulting in major damage. Israel also bombed the training camp of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades in the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood north of Gaza city, causing a massive amount of damage. The fire, which resulted from the Israeli strike, spread and caused major damage to nearby homes. The strikes also targeted the office of Amir al-Shuhada Abu Jihad, who belongs to the Fatah movement in a Daraj neighborhood in Gaza city. A medical source announced that 3 citizens were wounded by the gunfire of special Israeli forces that infiltrated into the area of Glabo in northern Gaza district. F-16 planes fired 2 missiles on the Sayyaf area and 2 other missiles in Atatra. A 5th missile targeted the Abu Nada area, as well as dirt and side roads in the district. Israeli warplanes struck in the north of Beit Lahia. Our correspondent said that the strikes targeted a main road behind the military intelligence headquarters in Al-Azba area in Beit Hanun, as well as the Jam'iyya Street near the Balsam Hospital, and streets leading to different areas in the northern Gaza Strip. This resulted in major damage to the main network of roads. Israeli tanks shelled the northern Gaza district, where 2 members of the National Security Forces were injured. 2 children from the Shaksher village east of Rafah sustained various injuries from shrapnel of shells coming from Israeli occupation tanks that are currently amassed at the Gaza International Airport. The Israeli missile strike on the power plant in the Gaza district in the north, south, and center left these districts in total darkness and with absolutely no electricity. Israeli artillery also struck the main electric generator in Beit Hanun village and an electric transmitter in Beit Lahia north of the Gaza Strip, cutting off all electricity in these 2 villages. Occupation forces also bombed the main electric generator that provides electricity to the Rafah district. Our correspondent said that the Israeli bombing of electricity generators put the entire district in complete darkness.
Joining us on the phone to discuss the savage aggression on Nablus is our correspondent, Rania Abu Jarada. Rania, to start off, how are the conditions in Nablus, and is the aggression still continuing? Is it only on the ground, or does it also involve airstrikes?
Yes, Ines, the military operation is still continuing in the vicinity of the Eastern Cemetery in the town of Nablus. Since the early dawn hours until this moment, the occupation forces have laid siege to the Eastern Cemetery. It seems, Inas, that not only the people, the trees, and the rocks are targeted by the occupation forces, but also the dead are being targeted by them. They have used every available means to attack the cemetery since last night, including gunfire, tear gas, grenades, and other explosives. The repeated bombing severely damaged the graves in the cemetery. They also used search dogs in an attempt to find what they described as wanted men. They even brought a robot late at night in the area and entered the western gate in search of the wanted men, but to no avail. So far, nothing has been found inside the cemetery. In a final desperate attempt by the occupation forces, they resorted to using medical personnel as human shields, but still did not succeed in accomplishing anything. Now and then we hear gunfire exchanges between resistance fighters and the occupation forces. They are still occupying the civilian homes that surround the Eastern Cemetery and are preventing people from leaving. They are firing at anything that moves in and around the cemetery. This military operation, Inas, has so far claimed the life of the young man Mahmoud Yusuf Zukari during the first few hours of the raid in the Eastern Cemetery. As you mentioned, he was 20 years old. The number of wounded has reached 33, ranging from small to serious injuries.
We open with these late-breaking developments. An Israeli air-launched missile hit a car in northern Gaza. The vehicle was transporting a Qassam rocket launch team en route to attacking Israel. According to Palestinian reports, 3 people were wounded in the blast. In a separate development, the IDF is looking into claims made by the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades that it has abducted an Israeli soldier in the West Bank. The group claimed to have kidnapped a 22-year-old soldier yesterday morning. IDF officials say that there has been no confirmation of the Palestinian report, but that security officials were investigating. There's fresh hope for the family of abducted soldier Gilad Shalit today. IDF officers visited the Shalit home in Nizhei Hila to update them on efforts by Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak to secure Gilad's release. A family friend said this morning, quote, "The news gives us a tangible feeling that Gilad is alive and well." Gilad's father, Noam, said the family would like to personally thank the Egyptian president for his involvement. According to Mubarak, Egyptian contacts with several Hamas leaders have produced what he termed initial positive results. In Damascus, Egyptian intelligence chief Omar Suleiman met today with Hamas political leader Khalid Mashal, who is said to have masterminded the abduction. Suleiman was set to arrive in Gaza later in the day for talks with Palestinian leaders. Hamas is reportedly demanding an Israeli promise to release Palestinian prisoners at some time in the future in exchange for Gilad Shalit. Israeli diplomatic sources insist that they are not involved in any negotiations and demand the unconditional release of the IDF soldier. At the same time, the Prime Minister's office says Israel has not yet received any proposal from President Mubarak. Interior Minister Roni Bar-On today revoked the Jerusalem residency of 4 Hamas legislators, one of them a cabinet minister. The unprecedented move removes their right to live in Jerusalem and to travel freely throughout Israel. In April, Bar-On issued an ultimatum to Minister for Jerusalem Affairs Khaled Abu Arafa and PLC members Mohammed Abu Tir, Ahmed Abu Atur, and Mohammed Tota to renounce their membership in the Hamas terror group within 30 days. After refusal to do so, the 4 were arrested on Wednesday night, along with some 60 other Hamas cabinet ministers, legislators, and activists. In his first public address since the IDF offensive, Palestinian Prime Minister Ismail Haniyah today said his Hamas-led government would not cave into Israeli demands. He said the arrests of Hamas legislators would not weaken his rule. Haniyah, who was speaking in a Gaza mosque after Friday prayers, said he was working toward ending the crisis with Israel.
Hundreds of Egyptian worshippers demonstrated inside the Al-Azhar Mosque after the Friday prayers, demanding the deportation of the Israeli ambassador in Cairo to protest the continued attacks by Israeli occupation against the Palestinians. The demonstrators, who were surrounded by a large number of Egyptian security forces, called for the closure of the Israeli embassy.
The Cairo heat was accompanied by an escalation of anger inside Al-Azhar Mosque in the first Egyptian show of support for the people of Gaza who are under siege. The protesters, who represent the Muslim Brotherhood and other religious opposition groups, called on Islamic and Arabic governments to cut all diplomatic and economic relations with the Zionist entity. They stressed that their hope for change is not entirely dependent on these governments, but on Arabic and Islamic people.
We remind our governments and leaders of their historical responsibility. We call on them to take a firm and opposing stance to the Zionist entity. We must not let these governments remain passive and indifferent.
We have let our brothers down. Our leaders have let us down. They stand on the sidelines as spectators, if not collaborators.
The angry protesters held up signs and chanted slogans supportive of the Palestinian government, whose ministers were kidnapped by the occupation. They called for a boycott of American and Zionist products until more steps are taken to stop the aggression.
We must boycott all that is American and Zionist. Our campaign against Danish products succeeded. So let us boycott any American and Zionist products. We must expose any traitors who support normalizing relations with the Zionists.
The protest movements, which started in Al-Azhar and followed in other mosques, are far less in scope than the incidents in Gaza, but those who staged them believe it is a start that will be followed by more steps. Will these angry voices reach those in power? Or will Islamic and Arabic governments remain silent as if none of this really matters? Inside Al-Azhar Mosque, Ahmed Al-Siyufi, Al-Alam, Cairo.
A British survey revealed that Muslim communities' confidence in the British police has severely fallen, especially after the police's recent practices committed against them. More than half of the participants called for the resignation of the chief of police, reiterating the demand to reverse the police's practice of singling out the Muslim community in Britain.
British Muslims have lost confidence in the police force, especially after the police targeted a Muslim family's home in eastern London. The family members were arrested and then released after it was revealed that the police relied on false information by an informant. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. According to a poll of a number of British Muslims, 57% opposed the British police carrying out preemptive attacks under the pretext of what it called the war on terror, especially since afterwards it was revealed that the intelligence was wrong. 54% of those polled called for the resignation of British Chief of Police Ian Blair, especially considering the latest events. 29% felt that their confidence in the police has decreased. These results reflect the Muslims' anger and condemnation of British police practices and arrests of hundreds of Muslims. Thus, the Muslims believe that they are the only ones being targeted in the so-called anti-terrorism laws.
We said to the government, these laws have caused enough suffering for the Muslims. We are working with other communities to figure out how the government can implement the laws fairly so that Muslims are not the only ones that are targeted. We must raise our voices about our problems as part of British society. Only by strengthening our community will we be able to confront them.
The Muslim community does not deny the British police's right to act to protect British society, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. However, they believe that the police must do more to build bridges of confidence with British Muslims and immediately reverse the way it treats Muslims. The police must also confirm the accuracy of the intelligence information before any movement is made.
I have no problems if they deal with someone who is a criminal or terrorist. But to use these laws against all Muslims is unacceptable and rejected completely.
British Muslims believe the police must take the issue of anti-Muslim discrimination more seriously and not single them out just because they are Muslims. Otherwise, Muslims will continue to be victims. Azza Siftawi, Al-Alam TV, London.
In a sharp rebuke of President George W. Bush's tactics in the war on terrorism, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down as illegal the military tribunal system set up to try Guantanamo prisoners. By a 5-3 vote, the nation's highest court declared that the tribunals, which Bush created right after the September 11th attacks, violated the Geneva Conventions and the U.S. military rules.
And so I haven't had a chance to fully review the findings of the Supreme Court. I want to assure you that we take them very seriously. Two, that to the extent that there is latitude to work with the Congress to determine whether or not the military tribunals will be an avenue in which to give people their day in court, we will do so. The American people need to know that this ruling, as I understand it, won't cause killers to be put out on the street. In other words, there's not as I was a drive-by briefing on the way here, I was told that this was not going to be the case. At any rate, we will seriously look at the findings, obviously.
U.S. President George W. Bush and Japanese Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi warned North Korea that it will face consequences by proceeding with the test of ballistic missile. The two leaders met at the White House in what is billed as a farewell summit for the outgoing Prime Minister, who has forged strong ties with the United States during his 5-year tenure and a close friendship with Bush.
We both agreed that it's very important for us to remain united in sending a clear message to the North Korean leader that, first of all, launching the missile is unacceptable. There's been no briefings as to what's on top of the missile. He hadn't told anybody where the missile's going. He has an obligation, it seems like to me and the Prime Minister, that there be a full briefing to those of us who are concerned about this issue as to what his intentions are. It makes sense, doesn't it? It's a reasonable thing for somebody to do.
Transport trucks carrying armored vehicles and military trucks left the Japanese military base in southern Iraq today as Japan pushed ahead with its promised troop pullout. Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi announced earlier this month that Japan would withdraw its roughly 550 soldiers engaged in reconstruction and humanitarian work from their base in Samawa in the southern province of Muthanna. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki said this month his forces would take over security from July in Muthanna, where the British oversee a multinational contingent that includes Japanese and Australian troops. No Japanese soldiers have been killed or wounded in Iraq. Japan has said its withdrawal from Samawa would be coordinated with Britain and Australia, whose troops provide security for the Japanese soldier. Four Iraqis were killed and 22 injured in a series of bomb attacks today around the Iraqi city of Kirkuk, north of Baghdad. 3 people were killed and 7 injured when the bus they were traveling on hit an explosive device along the road between Kirkuk and the town of Dabas. Meanwhile, a bomb attack in the town of Multaqi, west of Kirkuk, killed a member of police patrol and injured 9 others. An explosive device near the town of Gaza, south of Kirkuk, injured 3 members of a police patrol, and 3 Iraqis were injured in a bombing at a marketplace in the town of Roja. In addition, the bodies of 4 Iraqis were found by a police patrol near the Zaytura River in Kirkuk south. The 4 were apparently shot dead. In another attack, a tribal leader, Sheikh Kamil Khudair Mahmoud Al-Akeli, was shot dead by gunmen last night in front of his home at the central Dubat district of Kirkuk. Meanwhile, U.S. military sources reported today that a U.S. soldier was killed by insurgent small arms fire in the northern city of Mosul. U.S. and Iraqi troops killed 3 militants and captured 4 in a village near Baquba after a gun battle prompted American forces to call in air support overnight.
On Tuesday, in Al-Alawi Square in the center of Baghdad, a new wave of Iraqi prisoners who lived a long time in the darkness of the occupation prisons were released. These prisoners and their families waited long hours at Al-Alawi Square in the center of Baghdad. The families of prisoners, however, were happy to see their sons who were arrested by the occupation finally released. They were forced to live for months in the darkness of prisons where they endured a lot of sadness and pain. A mother greets her son. A father finally meets with his son after waiting patiently. Everybody was full of happiness.
The day I was arrested, I was at home with my brother, and then all of a sudden we heard explosions. Gunshots were fired in our direction, and sonic bombs were thrown at us. Then they broke down the main door and destroyed the entire apartment. They forced us out into the streets. We still do not know why they did this.
The families of the detainees expressed their gratitude to the Iraqi Accordance Front, which has been working effortlessly to get Iraqi prisoners out of the occupation prisons. The Iraqi Accordance Front has vowed to free innocent Iraqi prisoners who became the unfortunate victims of an occupation that has no mercy.
God is greater than them. If Hashimi did not help us, the prisoners would not have been released. God is the greatest. May God protect you and put joy in the heart of Iraqi families, God willing.
Some prisoners talked about the harsh living conditions that they were forced to endure, which followed horrifying accounts of detentions. Planes drop bombs, and soldiers destroy civilians' homes. Anyone who dares to ask about the reasons is arrested.
They arrested me on March 23rd. I still do not know why they arrested me. When I saw the 6 planes land, the farm where I was working, I thought for sure that I would be martyred. They were launching missiles all around me. Then they arrested me and took the money from my pockets. I asked them, "Do you even know who I am? And can you tell me why I'm getting arrested?" They said it's none of my business and that they will take me to Abu Ghraib.
Killing and detention are what the occupation forces brought with them. This has become clear to Iraqi citizens despite claims of bringing democracy and freedom. For Baghdad Channel, Ala Jabouri, Baghdad.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only.